It is a growing problem facing a number of Asian countries. Now there's a collaboration among these countries to tackle the challenges of aging populations. China's aiming to enhance policy and technologies within the ASEAN +3 framework. It includes Southeast Asian nations and China, Japan, and South Korea. Altogether, they represent a population of 2.3 billion people. For more on this, joining me now is Professor Philip O'Keefe. He's the director of Aging Asia Research Hub at Australia's Center of Excellence in Population Aging Research. Philip, great to have you on here to talk about this very important topic. I was at APEC in Lima just last month, and Carlos Kuriyama briefed reporters on trends and headwinds. It's important to point out that there are 7 countries that are both in ASEAN and APEC, and it is one of the challenges he was talking about. He says it's a real problem, it's not going away, so obviously it's on the radar for leaders in both ASEAN and APEC. But are there any concrete policy recommendations out there when it comes to aging?
Thank you, Mike, for having me. Yes, I think there are a lot, and a lot of them do come from within the Asian region already, given the advanced aging of countries like Japan, Korea, and Singapore. And this has been a priority for ASEAN +3 for at least a decade now, I would say. So I would say if you look around the region and around the world, there are several lessons for China, and particularly from the region. The first is on mature workforce. So that is getting people to work longer and productively. And here, both Japan, Korea, and Singapore all have had these very multifaceted strategies to extend working lives, but also to extend them productively and humanely, if you like. That includes retirement age reform, re-employment, wage policy reform, incentives for firms, and a whole host of things. I think the key thing is that it's a multifaceted strategy and that they've been pursuing it for some time and with some success. Japan and Korea, for example, have the longest working lives in the OECD already, and so I think there are lessons there. That's the first area.
Yeah, and I want to know, how do governments actually coordinate policies like these when countries are at different stages when you look at demographic transitions?
Yeah, it's a good question. Of course, yeah, it's not easy to coordinate. Some of them happen through things like migration. So my own country, Australia, for example, with the Pacific Islands, given our different demographics, coordinates education qualifications and things, for example, in the care industry, so that those who study in Tonga or Fiji and other places, when they come to Australia, their qualifications are recognised. That's one area. Other things like portability of social security rights, a whole host of things, really. The other is aged care, and I think there's a lot of collaboration and learning happening here within the Asia region, both in the commercial sector and the government area.
You know, you mentioned China. It's going to raise its retirement age for workers next year, and I was there quite a few months this last year, and it was one of the topics that really came up in conversations. Older people were talking about, geez, I was getting close to retirement, now it looks like I'm going to have to work longer. You talk to younger people who are like, hey, I was thinking I might be able to move up in the organization, but now these people are going to be around a little bit longer. Can you talk about you know, just trying to sell this proposition to a populace, because you've got 2 different interest groups there?
Look, it's a hard sell everywhere, as we know. If you look at France or Greece or virtually any country that wants to raise retirement age, you have difficulties doing that, and it's never a popular move. So I think acknowledging that is fair enough. But one important thing, and when you contrast the young and the old, actually the evidence from all around the world, OECD and beyond, including China, is that if older people work longer, it doesn't in fact compromise the job prospects of younger people. There's very strong evidence on that from around the world. And that's because partly they're doing different kinds of jobs, as you could imagine, at different ends of the age spectrum. And also because if more older people are working, the economy is more productive, there's more demand in the economy overall. So, and that includes demand for younger people in employment. So actually that's a bit of a myth. It's called the lump of labour fallacy by economists. So that's important to sell that story and confirm that that is the case. And research for China does confirm that that is the case, that it's not a trade-off.
All right, so hopefully our viewers listen to you and they're not as concerned as they were when I was speaking to them this summer. Thank you so much. A delight chatting with you, Professor Philip O'Keefe. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.